If you've seen any of the other videos, you'll know that there's attention given to how you should be really selective about what you read and how you should think very carefully about the purpose of reading any given text. The risk with that, though, is you can take it too far and you can end up being what I would call overly pragmatic. Everything is narrowed down to a very practical purpose in your reading. But you have to keep in mind that there is another key purpose, and that is reading for inspiration. Because after all, writing is itself a creative process, and reading provides us the inspiration for this. Also, and relatedly, when you're working and selecting which text you're going to read, in the end it's really easy to find that you've read the same kinds of texts and you become narrowed in your perspective. Because what you read is actually a political statement. So the kinds of authors that you hang out with say something about your view of the world and what you value. And they also could end up being the same bunches of people. You're always looking at the same friends and you're never having any other viewpoints. So I think it's important when we're doing the reading to sometimes try to read more widely for inspiration, but also to try and see other people's perspectives. And so you can look back on your own perspective in your reading and in your writing. So I recommend that you do this sometimes, and it's fun. Read outside your cultural comfort zone. Try to think about works that are not in your direct field, that might use disciplines that seem odd to you or might have unusual approaches, just to see if there are ideas or ways that you could incorporate this to enrich your own thinking and writing. Importantly, of course, people have made whole careers around this, bringing things from one discipline into another. So very fruitful it can be. Try to read works that are not just from Western authors, for example. Try not just to read works that are written by men in the academy. Try to read other works in other places. So as an example, I do work on rural Australia, so I think about rural communities. So I can read, Western authors writing about rural communities in Australia, but how much richer when I try to read about Indigenous perspectives of rural Australia, for example, and find Indigenous authors who have written about this. Completely different perspective. I might then go on and think about how do other cultures perceive rurality and how might those approaches be useful to understanding Australian rurality. So the basic message here is try to think about how you can open up your reading. This is one way to keep it fun and to keep alive the energy with your reading, and it will also encourage you then to think more deeply about the kinds of views and the kinds of perspectives that are in your own writing.